T&M, more than 20 years ago. The scene was pure chaos, framed under the dueling dance of warm hearthlight and cold shadow. Books were sprawled all over the blood-soaked study with large chunks taken out of some older tomes, while others were slashed apart by frenzied, inhuman claws. A path of wild blood spatters and mangled limbs led the way to a thick blood trail. A sinuous creature tracked this until she rounded a corner and found a small man lying prone in an ever-growing pool of his own blood. "What a mess, hun," she chastised as the raven-haired clump of a man crawled away pitifully. "And look, no more of those holier-than-thou assholes around to help." "Stay back," he wheezed. "You're just making a bigger mess. Just stop, please." Her voice was as sweet as he remembered it on his best days. But was this really the love of his life? She had torn Barakia apart so viciously only moments before, and now she wanted him. "You should have just left well enough alone, and you should never, ever run from me. How do you think that makes me feel?" He propped himself up against his forbidden bookshelf, which was now exposed thanks to her earlier attacks, and forced himself to look at her, this terrifying phantasm of his one true love. "I should be mad at you for betraying me," she continued, "but I'm frankly just disappointed." Her eyes were pools of black ink which spilled into his soul, and her blood-slicked hair fell over her pallid face like a pit of wriggling millipedes. It took her no time to zero in on the hand covering his wound. "Aw, Alskling, you're dying, aren't you?" With an unsteady hand, he lifted his coat and briefly inspected his wounds to assess the damage she'd caused. 3 of her claws had found purchase in his flesh when he attempted to flee earlier, and the blood would not stop pouring from wounds on the left side of his abdomen. He pulled his coat tight to his body and winced as a stab of pain shot through his arm and side. "What do you seek to gain from my work?" "Look at you, still trying so hard." The demon's laugh was identical to that of a harpy, and it brought on a wave of uncontrollable shivers. "All that just to figure me out?" The demon's claws and her maw, which reached up to her cold devil's eyes, all told the story of his death, which was soon to come. "You could not hope to comprehend such a creature, my love. I am far beyond you, and, sadly, you will not live to witness me at my full glory." She hovered over him, the claws on her elongated hands spreading apart dangerously like the branches of a tree of death. He waved her away as he pleaded, "Please, no!" But that seemed to only entice her more. Remember, we learned all these forbidden lessons together," he explained. "We both know the devastation that can be caused by my discoveries, not just to us, but to everything that draws breath, and to the very fabric of reality itself. We must tread carefully." "Not your problem, dear. Not after today. And besides, I've already witnessed the fall and rise of many great kingdoms. I have built such nations myself and watched them eventually crumble under lesser petty ambitions. None of this is new to me." The entire lower half of her face disappeared behind a gluttonous smile. "Now, don't squirm. I shan't have you grow cold." "Shan't? Who is this creature?" "I need to stem the bleeding before I bleed out," he said as he felt the life continue to drain from him. The way he saw it, talking was the only defense he had left. "I've already devised a solution to that." She cupped his throat and edged ever closer. "No," he whispered. "You will need me." "Why would I need an earthworm like you, dearest?" It's what we always intended. Remember? I would not have come this far without you, and I can only improve upon what I've already built." The creature's smile vanished as she stopped her advance. "You really are a squiggly little worm, aren't you? What makes you think I need anything more from you or your devices?" "Not just me. I still work for them, and they don't know about you." He waited to see if she comprehended his words. She looked back towards the center of the room before returning her wolfish gaze to him. "I must have managed to kill your friend before he could report me to that sanctimonious bunch of crabs in a barrel." He took a deep breath to calm his heart and nerves, though the pain he felt would not subside, nor did his rapid breathing, which was now involuntary. "Yes, I had only just told him when you entered the room, so you see I can still be of great use to you, but not if I die here. Imagine what can be accomplished if I work with you willingly." Her face contorted into a mask of gleeful malice. "Clever. You've presented me a dilemma. Your brain or my belly. What is more useful to me at this very moment?" As if on cue, or perhaps triggered by the demon herself, her stomach rumbled in the quiet of the study. "Ah," she breathed as she squeezed her hands around his neck. The air had all but escaped from his throat, leaving him to choke quietly on his constricted flesh. He didn't want anyone else to hear his final moments, but it may have been too late. "No," he wheezed as he heard a soft knock at the study door. "Tell me, dear, why is he up so late looking for you?" she asked, loosening her grip on his throat ever so slightly. He's, the man spluttered before she slackened her chokehold more. "He's here because I forgot to talk to him about his project. He wanted me to look at it before school tomorrow. It must have upset him." "Too obsessed with me, were you?" She looked back towards the door. "Tell him he'll be down momentarily." He felt his consciousness slipping, and with this much blood lost, it'd likely be the last sleep he ever had. He wanted nothing more than to hold his son and assure him that tomorrow would come and that they would have many days together to work on his project. But he was spent. Her chokehold had taken whatever he had left. "Can't." "I see. Lie there, then. I'll take care of this." "No, not my son. Please." "Our son, dear," she said in a voice that was no longer her own. Her blood-red bones and her unfettered flesh twisted in on itself violently before expanding into a broader shape. The grotesque fingers currently wrapped around his throat fell away before taking on a size and shape similar to his own. He looked up into the vacuous gaze of a doppelganger who smiled down at him while wagging its finger. "That's not at all a fair thing to say when we made him together," it said in a voice matching his own, though its smile soon faded as its illusion receded. "It's all so temporary these days," it muttered in a patchwork voice as it bent its head low and lapped up the blood around the man's body. "Mustn't forget the memories in the blood. Such delicious things." It all but slurped up the rest with uncanny haste and stood over him with his face now completely intact over its own. The creature straightened the robe it wore and rounded the corner towards the door of the study. He heard the doppelganger's measured footsteps before the sharp click of the lock preceded the gradual opening of the door. He heard his young son's inquiring voice before he drifted into a quiet darkness